Hello, welcome to the next lecture. In this lecture, we will learn about the locations and why we need the locations and how do we create the locations table. So we may see here that we need a location property of an event when we are creating it. So basically, locations are used to store the latitude, longitude, address, city, and countries for that specific event location address, which we will show on the list when we are showing the event details or even the event inside our list views. So to create the locations table, what we will do is we will see which columns do we need for that. So we always need the id. User id is needed because we need to store that location against a user who has created it. Then we can see that we need address, full address of that location to be stored as well, so which we will store inside the column of the address. We need cities, and obviously we need the country as well. Then two important things, which are latitude and longitude, which we need to store as well. So once we store the latitude and longitude, then we can find the directions easily, or even we can draw the events on the map easily as well. Then we need created at and updated at. Here one question comes on our mind is how this location will be linked with the event, right? There are two ways. One is we create a column name event id and we store the event id over here. But the issue is, if in future we have few more things, like for example locations for posts or locations for the pages of the companies who create the events, then there will be issue. Then we may need to create new columns like post id, company id, etc. So but to avoid this, what we can do is we can create dynamic columns and we can call it object id and object type. So in object id we can store the id of the object of which we are storing the location, and in the object type we can store the type of that object, like is it an event or is it an company page, or even that is a post by the users. So now we will create this events locations table now, and total number of columns do we have? 11. And always we need the id with auto increment and length of 11. Then we need the user id, then we need the object id, object type. We will decide now which object type we have right now, and later on further we can add the object IDs down the road when needed. We will store the city and country as well, along with the latitude and longitude of the address. Then we need created at, so we will have an idea when this specific location is created. To make the length and the values, we need 11. Object type will be an enum, because we know that the object type will be defined. So for now we are just putting the event. We can add more object types when needed in the future for the post and those stuffs. Address we can put text, because we don't know the length of the address. Sometimes it becomes very long address. So then in the city we can put a length of around 50. Same we can do for the country, latitude and longitudes as well. We will see an address as well soon by adding it, and then we will be able to see that how the data look likes in these fields as well. So we all know that we add the date and time, and on update we always update the current timestamp. So we have an enum for object type events for now. Then so these are the specific fields. I think everything is covered. So if we save it, then it has created a table for the locations in our database with the following fields which we have just created. So if I click on insert, and here some people also ask me how to add a link between the tables and how you can add the foreign keys and those stuffs. So that is easy. You can go to the structure relation view and the foreign key name you want to add, and on the column you want to add that foreign key. For example, if we want to add on the user ID and we want the database is eventner, we want to link it with the user's ID column because that is the primary key. So if I do save it, it will add a constraint, and this constraint, what it will do, it will say on delete restricted, on update restricted. So what it will do, if we will try to delete that user, then it will not allow us to delete, and it has also added a foreign key over here as well. We will just see in few moments after creating an location, and we'll try to delete that user and see whether it's allow us or not. So now you can see after the link of the foreign key, we can see the available users over here. So if we see, okay, we don't have events right now, but we can put just one event ID for now, and the object type is event. For example, address, I have searched Johor town event complex. We are just adding for the dummy data over here. And for example, if I remove this and add Lahore as city, Pakistan as country, latitude and longitudes we can see over here, and we can copy from any sample address for now. Later the real data will come from the apps or from the websites, but we are here to learn about that. Okay, it has inserted a location over here, so I can just copy this query as a backup over here. Okay, 1 second. Copy, I think this one needs to be copied. Okay, good. Now let's go back to the location. Now we can see over here that it has added an location with the following details which just we have added. Now here we can see the users are linked. So now if I see over here, this means that this user has a relation foreign key view with the users table, and if I click on this, I will go back to the users table. So for example, if I go back and try to delete this user, so let's see what it says. It says that there is a user foreign key constraint with the locations table, and you cannot delete this user until you delete the location. So the impact of adding the foreign keys is you cannot delete the delete the user until you delete all the dependent foreign keys. So I hope you will understand this concept as well. We can add the object ID of the events as well, and then we can link it together as a relation view foreign keys. So this is the importance of the foreign keys, that this way our data is dependent and we cannot leave the data. Sometime if we have not connected the relation views, then what happens? If we delete a user, then all the dependent things, like for example locations, posts, and if they are not having the foreign keys, then that they will stay in the database, right? But this way we are restricted to delete anything until we delete all the foreign keys data belongs to that key. Now we can see it, the insert we have tried. So insert query was to insert the data inside that locations table over here, we just saw it, and the restriction query you can see here, it says alter table. Alter table is used to change the architecture of the table, and then we can see the locations and constraints, users foreign key, user ID referencing with the users table ID, and on delete it's restricted, and on update it may also restricted. So while we were inserting the location, we can see over these are the columns we are adding the data for, and these are the values we have just given to the database to store on. So I hope you understand the concept of locations, why we need the locations table. This concept is very important, the object type and object ID, because this will be used in dynamic structures, okay, in dynamic databases at many places. When you are reusing a table, at that places you use the concept of objects, like for example when we work on the attachments of the events like images and videos stuff, then we will also see that there will be object IDs, object types, and also the data types like images, videos, and those stuff. So I hope you have learned a lot of things from this table, and hopefully in the next tutorial we will learn about events and how to create the event. Thank you.